Welcome to the Via Stoica podcast. My name is Benny. I'm your host for today. And today we're going to look at a Stoic quote, a quote by Seneca from his book, at least this version that I have, Dialogues and Essays, but it's from book On Anger, book 3. So we're going to look at that. But first, please, like and subscribe and leave a comment. We really appreciate that. And we really appreciate everybody watching and listening to us. You're watching on YouTube and Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of those great platforms. So thank you very much. We really appreciate that. And if you're struggling with things like anger, you can go to viastoica.com, book a free consultation, any of our coaches, and we can then talk about how to help you. No strings attached. If you just want to have a 30-minute chat with one of us, you can also do that. So please feel free to do so. And you can go on the website to find all of these quotes. We have got explainer pages, posts on these quotes, but also just a list of them. If you want to use them, you can copy them there easily. Push of the button. They're all yours to use, with the full references if you want to see where in the text they are. But we're going to go ahead with this quote by Seneca on Anger, book 3. It's in point 3, so it's right at the beginning. I'm there. And the quote goes, "So tell me, will someone call a man sane who, as if caught up in a tempest, does not walk but is driven along, and takes as his master a furious demon?" Now, when we look at this, and we know that there are degradations in anger, right? Gradations like we have, maybe the furious rage, as he talks here about a furious demon, or we have, irritation, frustration might be the beginning of anger. And then we have like anger itself, where you just feel like you are tensing up and all of your muscles are getting ready to maybe go to that next stage, that furious anger where the blind rage happens. And here, when Seneca is not a big fan of anger, as we know, he tells us that it's momentary madness, something that we want to eliminate from our life. Again, people say that these are human emotions. Yes, we have human emotions, but they are not all good emotions. These are emotions that will keep us from doing the right thing. And that's why the Stoics make a distinction between the good emotions and the bad emotions. The pathos, the pathe, the bad emotions, they're bad because they keep us from doing what is rational, right? They prevent us from thinking with reason and logic. While the good emotions, they stem from doing the right thing. If we act virtuous, we will feel joy, right? And we have a good wish that is towards virtue. We wish to act virtuous. Or cautious, right? We have a caution to not doing the right thing, to not being virtuous. That is the kind of when people say like, oh, but I need this fear or anger to help me from going into dangerous things, right? That's a self-preservation, oikiosis, preservation of us doing, making sure that we won't die or fall ill. But the Stoics, they go on a deeper level and they say, I don't want to corrupt my character or my soul. And that's where these emotions come from, right? The caution is like, if I'm going to do something that is vicious, right, that's based on vice or not in line with nature, that's what I really got to be careful of. That's what I really got to be cautious of. But here he talks about, can you call someone sane, right? And now in the day of age where everything is being recorded, everybody has a video camera in their pocket. We see all these videos of people just going ballistic on each other, right? Like the Karen videos, all of these other things where we see people just going wild and nuts. And we look at these videos and we ask ourselves, can we call these people sane, or are they just out of their minds? Are they acting with reason and logic, or are they being driven by a furious demon, right? Is that their master at the moment? And sometimes many people feel this sense of embarrassment for them, right? We feel embarrassed because we see like, oh, wow, look at how they're acting. And I'm sure that if they were to see those videos back and the consequences that come from them, I'm sure that they wouldn't be happy about what they're doing, right? About their actions. And they probably would have wished that they've done something different. That's why this anger, and it's, people say, yes, I want to be angry in the right amount, but it's so difficult to control that. Anger takes over really, really fast. And once there's a spark going on, it just takes a little bit of fuel to make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And we can see all of these examples now easier, and maybe just even in your daily life or with yourself, right? So can we call someone sane in that sense? And he does not walk, but is driven along. And that's the danger with an emotion like anger. We are not in control of it, right? It drives us along. It just keeps us going and going and going until we hit a wall, until we do something very stupid, or until it kind of dies out, which could take a long time. And with a lot of bad consequences as a result. So we really have to keep in mind of what we're doing there. And that's where, again, Seneca calls it momentary madness. Can we call a person sane? Ask yourself, if you see someone in full rage, just observe them and say, is this a sane person? Is this really how we want to act? Is this a good emotion? Even back in the day when we had the primordial aspects that we needed, safety, food, all of those needs that we needed to get covered, was anger really the right thing? If the hunter-gatherers or if they were to storm in on some big wild animal, right, would it be the right way to go, full of rage, to go and attack them? They would probably feel adrenaline, right? They would probably feel fear. They would probably feel some kind of nervousness, but they knew that they would have to do it to preserve, to feed the others, but rage wouldn't be the one of them, right? And even when you feel this kind of nervousness, or you would still have this driven sense of like, this is my duty, my responsibility to the people around me. So I've got to stay focused. I've got to know, I need to use the right tactics. I need to let my training, right? That's why, for example, people in the emergency services or in the military, or those people who do these high pressure jobs, they are trained, right? Because then they know they can fall back on those trainings instead of falling back on their high sensed emotions like anger, because then you would lose all sense of doing what is the correct way of doing things, right? So even in those situations, we don't need anger. We need a right sense of purpose, sense of responsibility, and sense of duty to do the right thing. So again, when we think about these things, right, ask yourself, and even picture yourself, if you can, in those moments, which is pretty impossible, but if you can, or if you see other people, can reflect back and it's like, have I acted this way myself? If I call those people mad, would I call myself mad? And do I like to be in that state? And what are the results? So let's put this quote one more time in front of you. So tell me, will someone call a man sane who, as if caught up in a tempest, does not walk but is driven along, and takes as his master a furious demon? Now think about that the next time when you see these videos, and also show some compassion to those people. They are not acting out of the right mind. They're acting out of a moment of insanity, a moment where something has taken over, some kind of emotion, some kind of demon inside of them has taken over. So maybe show them some compassion. Instead of putting more fuel on the fire, we can take a step back. We, as rational, reasoned people, take a step back and kind of help them diffuse the fire, right? Help them put it out. As Seneca says later on in this text, it is what part of our duty to also help reduce the anger in others. So again, thank you for listening. If you have some comments, I know that this is a big topic for people. So if you have some other views, if you have some comments on this, please let us know. Leave them there, like and subscribe as well. And if you are struggling with this, you can always book a consultation, a free consultation with us on viastoica.com. But for now, thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll hope to see you in the next video.